We are very fortunate to have His Grace Krishna Charan Das, Krishnachan Das Prabhuji on the call today to enlighten us on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam, verse 4.8.25. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam goes to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining the call today and giving your valuable association. You can take over the call, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I was told to speak on 4.8, 8.25 and 26. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 8, text number 25. I'll just read the verse and then translation and purport. And then we'll go to 26. And then again I'll read the verse and translation purport, and then we can discuss on that. Naradastad upakarnya jnatva tasya chikirshitam sprishtva murdhani agaghnena panina prahavismitaha. The great sage Narada overheard this news, and understanding all the activities of Dhruva Maharaj, he was struck with wonder. He approached Dhruva and, touching the boy's head with his all-virtuous hand, he spoke as follows. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When Dhruva Maharaj was talking with his mother, Suniti, all the incidents that had taken place in the palace, Narada was not present. Thus the question may be raised, how Narada overheard all these topics? The answer is that Narada is Trikalagnya. He is so powerful that he can understand the past, future and present of everyone's heart, just like the Super Soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, after understanding the strong determination of Dhruva Maharaj, Narada came to help him. It may be explained in this way. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is present in everyone's heart, and as soon as he understands that a living entity is serious about entering devotional service, he sends his representative. In this way, Narada was sent to Dhruva Maharaj. This is explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. By the grace of the spiritual master and Krishna, one can enter into devotional service. Because of Dhruva Maharaj's determination, Krishna, the Super Soul, immediately sent his representative, Narada, to initiate him. Okay, so that is 25. And 26 also we are going to cover today. I'll read again the verse. Aho teja kshatriyanam manabhangam amrishyatam balopyayam hridadhatte yat samatur asadvachah. Translation: how wonderful are the powerful Kshatriyas! They cannot tolerate even a slight infringement upon their prestige. Just imagine, this boy is only a small child, yet harsh words from his stepmother proved unbearable to him. Purport. The qualifications of the Kshatriyas are described in Bhagavad Gita. Two important qualifications are to have a sense of prestige and not to flee from battle. It appears that the Kshatriya blood within the body of Dhruva Maharaj was naturally very active. If the Brahmanical, Kshatriya or Vaishya culture is maintained in a family, naturally the sons and grandsons inherit the spirit of that particular class. Therefore, according to the Vedic system, the samskara or the reformatory system is maintained very rigidly. If one fails to observe the reformatory measures current in the family, one is immediately degraded to a lower standard of life. Okay. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Supadantikam Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So I thank Shyama Gauri Mataji and others for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on Srimad Bhagavatam, to talk about Lord Krishna. So thank you very much for giving us this service. So here the narration is about Dhruva Maharaj. It's very interesting because how Narad Muni, he is appreciating Dhruva Maharaj. Every preacher has an appreciation, should have an appreciation for the audience he is preaching. Sometimes we see that when we preach, if we have the attitude that a negative attitude about the people whom we are preaching to, then we cannot preach effectively. So if we think that, oh, these people are dumb, these people are not sincere and so on, then then we cannot really feel compassion. So therefore it's important to have appreciation for the people whom we are preaching to. Narad Muni has appreciation for Dhruva Maharaj. So besides that, Srila Prabhupada makes very beautiful points in the purport. Prabhupada says that Supreme Personality of Godhead inspires the Guru to help the prospective. The shloka says, Naradas tat upakarnya. Means that Narad Muni overheard about Dhruva Maharaj, about incidents that happened with Dhruva Maharaj. It was not very long. So Dhruva Maharaj just met his mother Suniti. Suniti had instructed Dhruva Maharaj to go to the forest and to meditate on the Supreme Lord. So Dhruva Maharaj leaves home, and this news went to Narad Muni. And it doesn't say exactly who told Narad Muni about this. That ultimately the Paramatma has inspired Narad Muni to go to Dhruva Maharaj. But whether this inspiration came directly from the Super Soul or through somebody else, that we do not know. But however, in either case, the main point is that if someone is interested to practice Krishna consciousness, then Krishna sends the Guru. Krishna sends the spiritual master to help and guide that person. So this we have seen time and time again. Even within our movement, we have seen that how so many individuals were brought to Srila Prabhupada. It was all by the divine arrangement of Krishna. So from one point of view, we can say that how the Hare Krishna movement has spread. It can be analyzed in a material way, saying the hippies, they did not have any shelter or they did not find any alternative. They were looking for alternative lifestyle, but when Srila Prabhupada presented that alternative lifestyle, they were attracted. And we have also seen how Srila Prabhupada was helped by many, many famous individuals like the Beatles, for example. The Beatles also helped Srila Prabhupada spread the movement. And then there were many other personalities who also, like Allen Ginsberg, and Alfred Ford, who accomplished Prabhupada. And then there are so many, people who have contributed and helped Srila Prabhupada spread the movement. Now one can analyze it in a material way, that Srila Prabhupada actually came to USA at the right time, when the counterculture was happening, and therefore Srila Prabhupada obviously took advantage of that counterculture. And that's how he spread the movement. However, it is just a superficial understanding. The real understanding, or the deeper understanding, would be to see how Krishna is ultimately arranging everything for Srila Prabhupada. To be able to see how Krishna is actually sending the Guru to the disciple and the disciples to the Guru. So that one needs to be able to see. Because it is said that without Krishna's intervention, one can never meet a pure Vaishnava. The darshan of a pure Vaishnava never happens by chance, or interaction, the association of a pure devotee or the spiritual master is always arranged by Krishna. It's never a chance event. So that we understand from the scriptures. So that, ultimately either Krishna may directly inspire from the, from the heart as Paramatma, he may directly inspire the disciple to go and meet the spiritual master, or in some other cases he may inspire through somebody else. Like Srila Prabhupada said how one of his friends, he had brought him to his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He never wanted to meet Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. But one of his friends, he actually, forced Srila Prabhupada to meet Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So sometimes Krishna may act directly from within the heart, or he may send someone, or he may help through somebody else. But in either case, Krishna is actually helping, he's arranging the meeting between the prospective guru and disciple based on their sincerity, based on the sincerity of the disciple and the purity of the spiritual master. If the spiritual master is pure, then Krishna sends the sincere souls to him. And similarly, if the disciple is sincere, then Krishna sends the spiritual master, bona fide spiritual master, to such a sincere soul. So we can see that, every event that happened in the early days of ISKCON, how Srila Prabhupada spread this mission. There are several books that came out, recently also. Like there is this book by Shyam Sundar Prabhu, Chasing Rainbows. And then there are several other books on how Srila Prabhupada had initially, inspired his disciples to spread Krishna consciousness. And if we read those events, it may appear that, these are just miracles, how this happened. But actually, if we look deeper, we can see how Krishna is personally acting, and because everything that happened was so miraculous that it couldn't happen by chance. How Shyam Sundar Prabhu met George Harrison and all, these things don't happen by chance, So the point is that, yes, Krishna's hand is there, and that we should be able to see. Devotee will be able to see. And we also see, not only during Srila Prabhupada's Leelas, but we see even today, there are several examples of how people got Srila Prabhupada's books at a very, surprising, in a very surprising manner. Somebody wants to commit suicide, there is an instance of one person who wanted to commit suicide. And, the way he wanted to do that is he connected the exhaust pipe of the car and in such a way that the smoke of the exhaust pipe would come inside the car. And then he started the engine, closed all the windows, and he wanted to just inhale all the smoke and then commit suicide in that way. So as he closed the windows and he was just about to start the process of committing suicide, a devotee was passing by that way, and then he saw this happening, and then he puts this book called Coming Back, right on the windshield, in front of the person. As soon as he is coming back, he becomes curious. Maybe I'll have to come back after I die. So then he opens the car and reads the book and becomes a devotee. And in this there are several examples. So these show that how Krishna is actually, arranging for the spiritual master to meet the disciple. So we can rest assured that if we are sincere, then guidance will always come. Even within our Krishna conscious life, many times we may become, be doubtful whether whether my problems can be solved or not, whether how I can tackle all the difficulties that I am facing, whether I'll get the right guidance or not. But we can rest assured that we will get the right guidance if we are sincere, right? That means if we really want that guidance. So yes, so in this case we have seen how Krishna sent Narada to Dhruva Maharaj, and we also see several other such examples in the scriptures also. How Parikshit Maharaj also wanted to die, and he wanted to end his body, and he was looking for a spiritual master. At the right time, Krishna sent Shukadeva Goswami. And this reminds me of another example of one devotee, one leader of ISKCON. He was attracted to Krishna. He came from the West. He was attracted to Krishna. But he was not sure how exactly to become a devotee. And by Krishna's arrangement, he ends up meeting Srila Prabhupada and hearing Srila Prabhupada. And, Prabhupada gives him special attention. And eventually he ends up becoming a devotee. And so in this way there are several such examples. So, and then Prabhupada also mentions about samskaras. In the next verse, Prabhupada says that in Dhruva Maharaj, the Kshatriya blood seems to be very prominent. Prabhupada says that Narad Muni was surprised that Dhruva Maharaj could not tolerate even a small insult. And that is one of the symptoms of a Kshatriya. Prabhupada writes in the purport that one of the important symptoms of a Kshatriya is that their sense of self-prestige. So they cannot tolerate insults. Kshatriyas can never tolerate insults. And the second quality, Prabhupada says, is that they do not flee from the battle. They never show their back to the enemy. These are the two. There are several other qualities, but these are two most important qualities of Kshatriya. So Narad Muni was surprised by seeing this quality, and he was fascinated by this quality. He was appreciative. So here Prabhupada writes about blood. The qualities coming through blood. Generally, most of the times we hear Prabhupada only talking about guna karma vibhagasha. That means one becomes a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra based on his qualities, guna and karma. He very clearly, in very clear terms, Prabhupada always condemned the caste system, which means, by birthright, someone becomes a Brahmin or a Kshatriya. Prabhupada always condemned that. But here we see that Prabhupada is saying that yes, certain qualities can come through blood also. However, that is not the only consideration. That only creates a favorable atmosphere. Samskaras create favorable atmosphere. Prabhupada writes again in the same purport that the Brahminical, Kshatriya or Vaishya culture is maintained, then the sons or grandsons inherit the spirit of that particular class. So the samskaras being being maintained, that means if the culture is maintained in the family, then that creates a very favorable atmosphere for the descendants, for the children. It creates a favorable atmosphere where it becomes much easier for the children to develop those qualities. So in that way, the parents are creating a very conducive atmosphere for the children to develop certain good qualities of that particular varna or class. Right? But however, that does not guarantee that the child will actually pick up those qualities, because it's ultimately up to the free will, how the child uses his or her free will, to either accept that culture or not. Right? However, the blood, carries certain samskara also. Right? The Prabhupada also gave credit to his father, that how his father was actually, created the favorable atmosphere, and taught him, about worship of Krishna right from childhood. Right? So therefore, yes, there are qualities that come through the blood also. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also another example is given, that of Maharaj Vena. Vena Maharaj was, born of the dynasty of Dhruva Maharaj. In the dynasty of Dhruva Maharaj, one of the kings was Anga, and Anga was a great devotee. He was a Kshatriya, and his son was Maharaj Vena. Although Anga was a devotee of the Lord, his son Vena was a tyrant. He was very tyrannical, he was very cruel, and he declared himself to be God. He forbade people to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Anga became, a demon, basically. However, when Anga actually refused to, change, the Brahmanas actually came to King Vena. Brahmanas advised King Vena to actually change his ways and accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Vena declared that, no, who is God? I am God, because I am the king. The king is a representative of God, so you should worship me as God. So all the sacrifices should be done for my pleasure. So in this way, King Vena, disregarded the Brahmanas and ways of the Brahmanas. So therefore, the Brahmanas cursed him. And by the power of their curse, they actually killed him. Now here is an interesting point, that even though, King Vena, he was a demon and he was killed. But then after that, there was no king because Vena died. So therefore, then they needed a king to make sure that, there is proper administration. So they could have selected someone else to be the king. However, they actually, it is explained in Bhagavatam that the sages, they churned the body of King Vena to produce a son who would be competent to rule the kingdom. And that son was Prithu Maharaj. So Prithu Maharaj actually came from the body of King Vena. But then the question may come that how an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is Maharaj Prithu, how such a person can appear from the body of a demon or an atheist like King Vena? And another question is why the sages had to produce Prithu from the body of Vena only. They could have selected some other competent king. Why did they have to, resort to this means? The answer is, Prabhupada writes, that although King Vena was a demon, he was an atheist, but the blood running in his body was pure. Prabhupada writes. He says that because Vena was a descendant of Dhruva Maharaj, of great Rajarshis, so the samskaras or the good qualities of those Rajarshis, right from Dhruva Maharaj, they were present in the blood of Vena Maharaj. Although Vena himself was bad, but his blood was pure. So therefore, it had the capacity to produce a king like Dhruva Maharaj. Right. So yes, it definitely creates, the samskaras found by the parents definitely creates a very favorable atmosphere for the children. So therefore, the samskaras are very important. Prabhupada emphasizes that point in the purport, saying that samskaras are very, very important. Samskaras are very, very important. He says, I'll just read the sentence. By the grace of the spiritual master and Krishna, one can enter into devotional service. Sorry, just one. So, according to the Vedic system, the samskara or reformatory system is maintained very rigidly. If one fails to observe the reformatory measures current in the family, one is immediately degraded to a lower standard of life. So therefore, according to the Vedic system, the samskara is maintained very rigidly. So yes, the samskaras. And what are the samskaras? Samskaras are not just certain ceremonies. Yes, there are 10 major samskaras. Like beginning from, Garbhadan samskar, and then Jata karma, and then Nam karma. There are several samskaras, including Vivaha samskara, Upanayan samskara, and then the samskara after death also. So the samskaras begin before birth, and they continue even after the death of the person. So these are certain rituals, there are certain ceremonies, but actually samskaras are not just about rituals and ceremonies. Samskaras actually basically means purification. That means it involves a certain act of devotional service, a particular process of performing devotional service, in order to purify one's consciousness, one's existence. So it's basically for purification. Like for example, Srila Prabhupada told that for ISKCON devotees, the Garbhadhana samskara includes chanting extra rounds. Prabhupada recommended that the couple, they chant 50 rounds on the day when they want to copulate. So basically, so the point is that creates a certain purification. It attracts a pure soul, and even after birth, when the samskaras are properly performed, then that actually creates a very pure atmosphere. And for Krishna conscious devotees, every day their daily sadhana itself is a samskara. Basically, our daily sadhana also includes purification, and that purification helps the child, in becoming a very competent, personality, whether as a leader or as a devotee, basically. So the point is that the samskaras need to be performed and for devotees, Srila Prabhupada gave the guidelines of how to perform these samskaras. And the most important things that the devotees need to do is to follow the basic instructions of Srila Prabhupada, including chanting 16 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra minimum, following the four regulative principles, and then staying away from bad association, like like the media, movies, or watching TV. These are all bad influences. So Prabhupada told us that ISKCON devotees do not watch TV unless, of course, there is a Krishna conscious program. So in this way, following these principles, reading Srila Prabhupada's books every day, hearing lectures, hearing Krishna Katha, and rendering devotional service. So this actually creates a very, very powerful and purifying influence on the children. So therefore, this is very important. And there are several other examples to illustrate this point. In the Srimad Bhagavatam again, we see recently we celebrated Vaman Dwadashi, the appearance day of Vaman Dev, and so Vaman Dev actually, he delivered Bali Maharaj basically. So Bali Maharaj, he was the descendant of Hiranyakashipu, but he was also a descendant of Prahlad Maharaj. He was the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj and great grandson of Hiranyakashipu. So because of this, he had influence of both, right? Bali Maharaj had the influence of Hiranyakashipu, so he was very, very ambitious, like Hiranyakashipu. So he overthrew Indra. But then he also had the devotion of Prahlad Maharaj. So, although being influenced by his wrong samskaras or his demoniac samskaras, he actually decided to overthrow King Indra. And because of that, he had to be punished by Vaman Dev, because the Lord never tolerates his devotees, violating the system created by him. So a devotee never goes against the system created by the Supreme Lord. So the Lord created the system that Indra is going to be the king of heaven, and he is going to be the administrator. But then by going against that plan and by fighting against Indra, Bali Maharaj actually, he violated the system of Krishna. That was his ambitious nature. However, when the Lord actually punished him by taking away all his assets, all his property, everything, including his own body, in 3 steps, Vaman Dev had taken, not only his entire kingdom, but even his body, everything. So when he had taken everything and thus he was punished, he was purified by that punishment. But still he remained grateful to the Lord, and his devotion, his surrender to the Lord actually at that time, came forth. And because of the samskaras that came from Prahlad Maharaj, his grandfather. So when he fully surrendered to the Supreme Lord, again he received the mercy of the Lord. So therefore, every one of us, we have a combination of all good and bad samskaras. We are not entirely made of only good or bad samskaras. We have a combination of both. Right. So, by the process of devotional service, we can actually purify the bad samskaras, we can purify our anarthas, and at the same time we can increase the good qualities, the spiritual qualities. So if we, by the process of devotional service, sometimes, if we are very sincere, then yes, we can be purified. However, if we are not sincere enough, I would say, then in that case the Lord may have to intervene. He may have to arrange a situation where that purification may come, in a different way. That means in the form of punishment. So if we if we hear Krishna Katha and if we are serious in our devotional practices, then that purification happens naturally. However, if there is a lacking in our bhakti, if there is a lacking in our sadhana and sincerity of devotional service, then sometimes Krishna may have to arrange a situation where we may be forced to come to our senses, or basically we may be forced to face the reality. Right? Like in the case of Bali Maharaj, he was forced to be humble. Then he surrendered. But the good quality of Bali Maharaj is when he was punished by the Lord, then he accepted it with a grateful heart. He didn't resist. So similarly, whatever lacking is there in our devotional service, Krishna may arrange different situations for us to get purified, to fill that gap. However, we have to accept that situation with a grateful heart, without resisting, without complaining. So in that way, we get the mercy of the Lord. Yeah. So the point is that here again we can see that the samskaras had an influence even on Bali Maharaj. However, although the samskaras had an influence, he had both negative and positive samskaras. Eventually, by his free will, he chose to give up the bad samskaras and to accept the good ones. By his free will, he chose to surrender to the Supreme Lord. So therefore, in our lives, yes, our impressions from childhood and even from our past lives, they may have a great influence on us right now. Yes, they do have a great influence. Our upbringing, our past karma, all these things have a tremendous influence on what we are today. However, still we have the free will. We still have the free will to choose whether to act according to our bad samskaras, which are in our minds, or to act according to the good samskaras that we've got by devotional service. Yes, we have both, but the choice is still with us. What we want to do, or which influence we want to accept. So, this is the lesson that we learn from Bali Maharaj's story, Vaman Dev's story, that we accept those samskaras that are good. So here in this case we see how Dhruva Maharaj was very strongly influenced by the Kshatriya qualities that he inherited. And although Narad Muni, as we're going to see in the future verses, Narad Muni, basically tests him, tests Dhruva Maharaj and asks him to go back to home. And he's still very rigid on his determination. Right? So yes, the qualities that are, coming from, the Varnashrama system are also very, very favorable. That's why here we can see how Narad Muni is actually appreciating. Although actually according to pure devotional standards, according to the standard of pure devotional service, this is not the standard, obviously. A devotee never wants to take revenge. A devotee is always forgiving. He doesn't mind. He is not about taking revenge. So, but still, Narad Muni is actually greatly appreciating the qualities of Dhruva Maharaj. Although his whole motivation, his whole consciousness was actually to, acquire a kingdom greater than his great-grandfather, basically. But still, Narad Muni is appreciating. He is saying, Aho tejah kshatriyanam manabhangam amrishyatam balopyayam hrida dhatte yat samatur asadvachaha. So even the Varnashrama, the qualities of the Varnashrama system, Varnashrama dharma, they are also very, very conducive to devotional service. So Varnashrama system therefore is very favorable for the execution of devotional service. So we can see that. So however, the most important consideration, of course, is the free will. The most important consideration for executing devotional service is one's own free will, one's own sincerity. However, the secondary consideration is one's association or one's samskaras, because they have a great deal of influence on one's consciousness. The most important consideration, the first consideration is one's free will, and the second consideration is the association. Right? So sometimes we see that even in a very, very contaminating situation, if one is very, very sincere, exceptionally sincere, then that person may end up doing devotional service. And Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, we find the example of Pingala the prostitute. The prostitute named Pingala, it is explained by the Avadhuta Brahman that this Pingala, this prostitute, she was actually doing her profession basically. She was trying to attract her customers. She was standing outside her house all night. Obviously she was not in a very good association. She didn't have the best association, I think. However, somehow, we don't know how, but she somehow got the inspiration from her own heart that what am I doing? I am just wasting my time with the hope that some person will be attracted by me and give me some wealth. But instead, if I would have taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with the same eagerness, how much happier I would have been. So, I don't know exactly, there is no description of how exactly she got that realization. That was inspired by Paramatma. So, it's a matter of her sincerity. So, at that moment, she immediately, gave up all her anxiety and she completely took shelter of the Supreme Lord within her heart. And she became very peaceful. So, this example comes in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, the point is that she is not having the best of association. She is obviously also not having the best of samskaras. But somehow the free will acted, or she was able to use her free will to surrender to the Supreme Personality of God. So, yes, the first consideration is free will. And on the other hand, even if someone has the best of association, he may not choose to, surrender to Krishna. We have that kind of examples also. Even within our movement, we see there are so many individuals who had the best of upbringing, best parents and everything, but still somehow they do not end up becoming, or they do not really take up Krishna consciousness so sincerely. So the point is that yes, ultimately it's the free will. That's the first consideration. However, how we utilize that free will, is ultimately up to us, but at the same time, a favorable environment can be created by one's samskaras or association. So, a favorable or unfavorable environment can be created. But for most of us, for most people, a favorable environment is very much required. For most people, one cannot become sincere without that favorable environment. For people in general, yes, if we have a good association, if we have a good surrounding, then we can easily perform devotional service. And if we do not have, or if we do not have such good surroundings or association, then it becomes very hard for us to perform devotional service. That is the case for most people, right? So therefore, yes, Prabhupada always said that. Prabhupada always emphasized on having or staying in the association of devotees, associating with devotees as much as possible. So because one of the 6 symptoms of surrender is to accept things favorable, anukulya sankalpa, and to reject things unfavorable to devotion, pratikulya sevarjanam. So that's what we do. So the samskaras create a favorable atmosphere. So therefore we do that. We do those samskaras. we create that association and that atmosphere so that it becomes much easier for us to perform devotion. However, that itself will never guarantee that somebody will become a devotee, because ultimately it's a function of free will. So therefore, Bhagavad Dharma and Varnashrama Dharma. So Bhagavad Dharma is a function of our free will, whereas Varnashrama Dharma is a function of the samskaras. Bhagavad Dharma means bhakti. So that can only arise from one's free will. But Varnashrama Dharma, the proper functions of the Varnas and Ashramas, that will create a very favorable and fertile ground where that seed of bhakti can fructify. But Varnashrama Dharma itself cannot create that sincerity or the desire to serve Krishna, or to surrender to Krishna. That bhakti cannot be a product of simply by Varnashrama Dharma, but it can create a fertile ground. But the ultimate thing that takes us back to Godhead is Bhagavad Dharma. Therefore, Prabhupada always emphasized on Bhagavad Dharma. That means hearing and chanting, associating with devotees. That is Bhagavad Dharma. However, in order to sustain and effectively propagate that Bhagavad Dharma, a fertile ground of Varnashrama Dharma is required, and that is very favorable. So we can see that, therefore Krishna always, in the Bhagavad Gita several times, Krishna addresses Arjuna as Kurunandana, Bharata, Pandava, and so on. Because the samskaras play such a very vital influence, which cannot be negated. Only in a very exceptional case, an extremely rare and exceptional case, one becomes a pure devotee, or one becomes a devotee without any favorable atmosphere, without the need for any favorable atmosphere. But in most cases, yes, that atmosphere is required. And that is where Varnashrama Dharma comes into play. And since now Varnashrama Dharma is lost, therefore it is becoming harder and harder to perform devotional service. As when Varnashrama Dharma was intact, it was very natural to perform devotional service. Now it becomes such a hard struggle. And as time passes by, it becomes harder and harder. So therefore Prabhupada also wanted to establish Varnashrama so that becomes the proper platform or ground from where pure devotional service can be cultivated. So these are some of the thoughts that I wanted to share from these verses. So therefore we have to be very careful to perform our prescribed duties according to our particular ashrama, according to our particular varna, and as taught by our superiors. But at the same time, we should not be stuck over there. We should know that the ultimate goal is to perform pure devotional service. Pure devotional service is the ultimate purpose of Varnashrama Dharma. Otherwise, it's just a waste of time. Otherwise, as Bhagavatam says, if dharma swanushtita pumsam vishwaksena kathasya notpadayed yadritim srama eva hi kevalam. If one perfectly performs Varnashrama Dharma, but he does not develop taste for hearing Krishna Katha, then that performance is simply useless. It is just a useless labor. So therefore, it is very important to know the purpose. The purpose should be very clear. The purpose is not to become a Brahmana or Kshatriya or Vaishya or Shudra. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected that. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I am not a Brahmana, I am not a Kshatriya, I am not a Sannyasi. That's not the purpose. The purpose is nothing but Gopi Bharta Padakamali or Dasa Dasan. We are simply the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord of the Gopis. That is the ultimate goal. That is the only goal actually. However, if you want to really achieve that goal, whatever is favorable, that has to be accepted. Since this Varnashrama Dharma is, can be a favorable atmosphere and that can help cultivate and propagate that principle of bhakti. Therefore we accept it. So I'll stop there, and I'm sorry, just one more point. So yes, so this particular, as we can see in the case of Dhruva Maharaj had the spirit of Kshatriya. Eventually that helped him also attain pure devotional service. How? Because he was determined to follow the instructions of his mother Suniti and the instructions of Narad Muni, spiritual master. So his determination was in that way used in Krishna's service, and eventually he became a pure devotee. Had its effect. Therefore, that's why Narad Muni is appreciating that quality of being a Kshatriya. I'll stop here. Any other questions or comments? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Koti.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. No questions. Thank you very much for a very wonderful lecture. It was very instructive. Hare Krishna. This is Damodar Das from Bloomington, Illinois.
Hare Krishna, I can barely hear anyone.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, this is Damodar Das from Bloomington, Illinois.
Okay.
Thank you very much for a very nice, instructive lecture. It was very, very, very enlightening. Thank you very much for your time and your service. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Koti Dandavat Pranam to you. Thank you very much for very excellent class. Your association. Dandavat Pranam Prabhu. Bunda Pamati Anta. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for the wonderful class. Prabhuji, I have a question. You said Varnashrama Dharma should be followed, but nowadays, how is possible in this modern age, Prabhuji?
Okay, that's a very nice question. Well, Varnashrama Dharma, although it is not in its original form, as we put however, we still have Varnashrama Dharma, right? Because we still have, like the four Varnas, although not exactly in its original form. But then we have someone who is an administrator, as Prabhupada points out, it can never be destroyed because it is created by Krishna. Someone is an intellectual person, someone is an administrator, someone is a businessman. And regarding ashramas, someone is a brahmachari, that means, he is a celibate student. And someone is a grihastha, there is a grihastha. And someone is a sannyasi, someone is a vanaprastha. So these things are still there. It can never be destroyed, although it can be distorted, but it can never really be destroyed. And moreover, yes, Varnashrama Dharma includes several other dharmas also. Like there is a dharma of being a parent. There is a dharma of being a son or a daughter. There is a dharma of being a wife or a husband. Right? There is a dharma of being a teacher. There is a dharma of being a student. There is a dharma of being a friend. There is a dharma of being a servant. There is a dharma of being a master. So every particular role that we have has the dharma of being a leader. So every particular role that we may be playing, everyone has a particular role in relation to other people, and all that actually really falls under Varnashrama Dharma only. So when we are talking about Varnashrama Dharma, we are not just talking about the Vedic model exactly. Of course, Vedic Varnashrama Dharma is the original form how it was practiced. But yes, even today we still have those dharmas. Everyone has dharmas, right? So we all have our particular duties towards society, towards our family, towards So all this comes under Varnashrama Dharma basically. And the Vedas have a stipulation. If you read Shanti Parva of Mahabharata, there Bhishma Dev is actually explaining different dharmas to Yudhishthira Maharaj, and they do apply even today. You know, we still have duties. We cannot say that we have no duties towards anyone. So then those duties are actually part of Varnashram Dharma. Right. So yes, that can never be completely destroyed, although it has been distorted to some degree. Eventually, our hope is that we'll be able to revive it in its original form. But even if it's not in its original form, still it is there. Certain things have changed, but the principle still remains.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. You explained well. I understood now the relation between the things. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for the very beautiful class, very, very clear. I just had one question about the Varnashrama Dharma. So when we say that it's distorted now, but it can be set right. So if we try to artificially put something in place, do you think it will be sustainable? Because we already see that it's distorted, and then when we try to set it right, we may really not put it in the right perspective. Like, how can you artificially put the system into place? So can you just throw some light on that?
Well, everything happens in an organic manner. It's not an artificial manner. It's like the modern civilization with it's a matter of time.
We are not audible properly.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Voice is not clear.
I'm audible. Okay. So I'm not sure. But,
May I request everyone, can you please all put your phone on mute so that we can hear Prabhuji clearly?
Is my voice audible? Is it clear now?
No, Prabhuji.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Ram Hare. I see my again.
Prabhuji, not able to hear you. It's too much disturbance.
Prabhu, I think it's more of the internet problem or connectivity problem. Your voice is breaking apart. Maybe if you disconnect and log in again, it will become clear.
Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.
I think we lost connection.
Varsha Mataji, are you there on the call?
I'm there on the
Yeah, Mataji, can you please connect Prabhuji? His number is there on second group, other group.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ishwari Mataji, can you text me the number?
Wait, Mataji. Give me a second. Okay, now I can connect him. Let me connect him. I think there is no connectivity to Prabhuji's phone.
बंद है कृप
It's okay, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, I think Prabhuji doesn't have connectivity. His phone is not under range.
Okay.
Some problem in internet.
Yeah. So should we end the call? Or?
Shama Gari Mataji, are you there on the call?
Yes, Mataji, I am here, but I texted Prabhuji. He's not at it, but I don't know. He is not able to reconnect.
Yeah. I don't know. Even I tried to message him. I think there is some connectivity issues.
Okay. Should we end now then?
Yeah. He is not here.
So should we stop, Mataji?
Yes, Mother.
Your obeisances to all the Vaishnavas who ensure पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः अनंत